Hello and welcome to Recruiter 360 TV with me, Toby Babb. And I'm joined today by Dan Dackombe of LinkedIn. Dan, great to see you.
Nice to be here. Thanks, Toby.
Thanks for coming in. So look, Dan, you've been at LinkedIn now for 8 years or so. Tell us a little bit more about your background.
Yep, sure. So I joined LinkedIn 8 years ago as one of the first enterprise sales managers for EMEA, based out in London. Prior to that, I'd worked for a number of different job boards over the years. So all in all, have been around recruitment and recruitment-based technology for almost close to 20 years now.
Look at that, king of the area. And what are you doing for LinkedIn right now?
So I'm responsible for our search and staffing practice in EMEA. So I'm based in London, and we have two divisions within our talent solutions business. One half we engage with HR professionals and resourcing professionals, in-house recruiters, and then the other half of the business is focused on recruitment consultants businesses, and that's the area that I focus on.
So it gives you this wonderful position to be able to look over the whole industry. And within that, it's changing all the time, isn't it? There's so many different things, so many different challenges that are coming out. You guys have done a lot of research. The content that LinkedIn are famous for now, I think, is impressive. Tell us a little bit about what you see going on. What are the trends in the marketplace at the moment?
The report that we've recently just had commissioned is a report called the Global Recruiting Trends Report. And we interviewed somewhere close to 9,000 recruitment professionals to really get a better sense of what are some of their main observations, concerns and feelings around how the marketplace is going to continue to evolve in the short and the medium term. And there were really four themes that came out. The first was around diversity and how can they ensure that the people that they're bringing into their organisation represent the diverse society that we all live in now. Yeah. The second piece was around the actual job interview process itself. The kind of the selection process per se hasn't necessarily really changed much in many years, and recruitment and HR professionals are now thinking how can they leverage technology to really improve that process and for there to be more efficiencies in regards to that early part of that selection funnel. Data is a theme that continues to really stand out, and how the recruitment industry and the resourcing function can really think about data in a more intelligent and progressive way when it comes to really identifying the industries or the sectors or the geographies or the personality types of candidates that are going to benefit their organisation. And then also around artificial intelligence itself in regards to how they can become more efficient in their day-to-day job as well. Yeah. So these seem to be the four key themes that surfaced when discussing, I suppose, what's front of mind for a number of recruitment professionals globally. That
data and AI piece are sort of inextricably mixed, aren't they? And they sort of mesh together. And I was very fortunate to come to your Talent Solutions day where it was the dominant theme throughout it. Are you seeing any sort of real innovation in that sort of space, or is it still sort of buzzwords that people are talking about?
Yeah, so I mean, look, I think first of all, data without insights is really not particularly valuable. So I think
the story is the important part.
Well, exactly. I think so. For me, one of the opportunities that we have is, well, how do we more intelligently collect data? And recruitment businesses have, a whole host of different channels and different opportunities to be able to collect that data. But your ability to really gain insights from that and use those insights to make sensible business decisions, I think is an opportunity that all recruitment businesses have to really elevate themselves above the competition.
Yeah, and the point of diversity has been very, very much and ever more so in the news at the moment. And it's a difficult question to answer. Speaking frankly, it's somewhere where I don't think there's been anyone who's absolutely nailed that and has a solution to it. And we hear positive discrimination, various other different claims around it. What sort of development have we seen in that space?
So I think in regards to diversity, the ability to really think about the biases that we have during the selection process, whether they're conscious biases or unconscious biases, which are highly prevalent within the selection process, is something that all of us have to be aware of, and is a concept that I think everyone understands the benefits of having a diverse team in terms of it being not just the right thing, but also in regards to actually diverse teams perform better. So I think as a recruitment professional, whether you are working within a recruitment organisation, thinking around how do you put forward a panel of people that represents a diverse background, a diverse set of skills, a diverse set to forward to your customer, I think is one of the areas where recruitment businesses can really stand out from the crowd.
Yeah.
And that's certainly one of the one of the biggest challenges that the end customer will be facing. How do you ensure that you not just recruit but retain a diverse employee mix?
Yeah. And you mentioned tech within the whole process. Are you finding tech helps with that sort of stuff? Are you seeing people working to utilise technology to improve the scenario with that? With diversity?
I mean, I think
and remove that unconscious bias as much as anything else as well.
Yeah, I think technology in itself is because it's a hugely powerful opportunity that we have, and it's quite frankly the saturation of technology that is now available is pretty impressive. In the last 2 years, over 800 recruitment technology-based companies have registered themselves. Within the UK, there's been around about 2 billion worth of investment in recruitment or HR-related technology.
Right.
And so, whether or not you're an owner of a recruitment business or a HR manager, there's never been more choice in terms of really thinking about what are the different platforms that you can use and you can leverage to ultimately benefit the recruitment function.
Yeah.
And there's a whole different host of opportunities that you have in terms of improving the selection process at the front of the funnel, but then also really challenging the unconscious bias that you may have during the selection process. So there's a new wave of technology companies that really have taken the concept of psychometric testing and assessments and to really think about, well, how can actually we remove more bias from this?
Yeah.
And there's some great companies out there, companies that have gamified the selection process in regards to adding a psychometric element to the initial part of the screening process.
Yeah.
And some of the research that we've seen certainly indicates that that's just one of the many ways that we can challenge ourselves and challenge the recruitment process that we've got to remove some of the the unconscious bias that's part of that selection process. And ensure you're bringing in a diverse slate of candidates.
And LinkedIn's been sort of at the forefront of the video revolution of late, and video technology points at some of that as well, where it's just not just a name on a CV, but something a little bit further than that. It's been, I guess, pointed that that's very much at the junior end as opposed to anywhere much further to do mass video introductions and such like. Do you see that as a changing face? Do you see much happening there? Yeah,
I mean, over the last 18 months since LinkedIn has really introduced, embraced and scaled out the opportunity to be able to embed native video into the stream itself. We've just been overwhelmed with the sheer volume of the both innovation and quality of the video content that our members have added to the platform. And so from my point of view, I think I don't necessarily position this as a level of seniority in terms of who's been producing content, because we've seen everything from CEOs, CFOs, politicians, and a whole broad range of people that you'd probably classify at the senior end of the spectrum. I think it's more indicative of how us as consumers want to really absorb information now. If recently my son loses the instruction manual to his remote control helicopter. I'm not looking online for a PDF. I'm on YouTube. Like, how do I fly this thing?
Makes it a lot easier, doesn't it?
Exactly. So I think video as a platform and as a medium to consume information is certainly something that that all of us enjoy, and I think that certainly is beginning to translate to the content that we see on LinkedIn. And
you've seen a lot more of it. Is there any sort of guidelines for best practice about how people who are using LinkedIn as a recruiter can really maximise its worth?
Yeah, I think this is we provide I suppose the framework in how people can present themselves, but then at the same time we want to ensure that we drive a high degree of creativity,
Yeah.
encourage people who are using video as part of any type of engagement to really put their own authentic self across.
Yeah.
And so if your purpose of a video is to read out a job spec, then that's probably going to get a certain amount of engagement and or traction. And if you look at certainly some of the companies that we've seen on LinkedIn that have really used video as a way to enhance and promote their employer brand or what they stand for personally as recruiters, these are people that tend to get great traction and ultimately start to build their brand in the markets that are going to make the most commercial sense for them. So we've got some guidelines around the kind of like the length of video and some ideas around like video production quality, but at the same time, we're certainly not trying to stifle any innovation and encourage as much.
I think that authenticity is a really important part of it, isn't it? Because it's it certainly comes across in my eyes when you see people who are being themselves, and I think that's still got to remain the focal part of everything, isn't it?
Yeah, well, the recruitment industry is growing at at a tremendous rate. There are now more recruitment companies in the UK than pre-financial crisis, and so there's never been more competition. There's never been more opportunity, or the bar to entry has never been lower because of the likes of platforms like LinkedIn and data that is available. And so I think for a recruitment owner or a recruitment consultant to really stand out from the crowd, really thinking about the personal brand that you have. What you stand for, the integrity of that brand, and how you promote that is certainly one of the many ways that you can stand out from a
noisy crowd.
From a noisy crowd.
And that continued sort of evolution of companies starting up. I think you sort of cited to me recently there's about 6,000 companies starting up every single year in the recruitment space. The last number I heard was about 32,000 recruitment companies in the UK. Standing out is difficult. And a lot of what it is listening to what your customers are saying. So if we look at what the customers are saying effectively from your global trends report, that diversity aspect, the use of data, the use of technology and such, that seems to be in there. What else can people be doing? Where are you seeing great in the industry?
So I think the recruitment consultants who are really digging into what are the main drivers that their customers have outside of the actual job spec sounds pretty obvious, and is certainly what we would have consider best practice for a long period of time. But I think in such a highly competitive environment, one of the downsides of that is really the kind of like the pace at what we operate within. And so having the opportunity to create the right amount of due diligence to really understand, well, what is important to your customer, how high up on their agenda is really thinking about either diversity, their corporate social responsibility, to get a better understanding of what that customer's needs are, because that's not just relevant to ensure that you know more around what the client's looking for. I think successful recruiters have the opportunity to really sell those benefits back to candidates in a way that they've never had before. I think through platforms like LinkedIn, you've got the opportunity to have a high degree of exclusivity with candidates, but you've also got to be highly relevant then, and so if you look at what are some of the main trends as to what engages candidates now, it's having a real sense and understanding of what is the purpose of that organisation, what do they stand for, what socially are they around, what are the ethics of that organisation, because one of the key drivers that people are looking for in terms of their next role, it's not salary, it's not location, it's around the values and purpose of an organisation, and that's something that recruiters I think have got to better be able to articulate to candidates, and to be able to do that, they've really got to understand their clients. Yeah,
no, I think it's excellence to understanding it was our founding sort of role and the whole or purpose as a business. And when you look at it, I think that never really changes in the job. The key USP is to understand your clients better than anyone else, and I think that has always been and will always be a fundamental part of the recruitment process. And then when you look back at that and how well people are able to do that, it comes down to asking better questions. And quite often the innovation in the industry goes back to the original focus of what the job's all about. Find out what the needs of your customers are and deliver accordingly.
Yeah.
We're in a transformative period, if that's the right sort of word at the moment, with the industry, and so many different things happening. If you had a crystal ball, what would you suggest we're going to see?
Well, I think what we're getting to is, technology is going to continue to play a big part in the recruitment process. From selection, from screening, through process improvement, through to how you make offers, to how contractors are paid, to how you engage with people that within the gig economy. So I think there's certainly we're going to certainly see a continued improvement in regards to the actual process and improvement around the process. I think some of the challenges that we face is recruitment businesses have not necessarily traditionally been great at buying a tech stack and really thinking about, well, how do all of these different pieces, these interlocking, glue together, what actually complements each other and what competes. And so I think there's no shortage of recruitment technology available. So I think for the businesses that I think that will end up winning in a shorter period of time are going to be those that are really carving out more time to think thoughtfully through their purchasing decisions when it comes to technology. In the same way as I suppose we've seen the industry move from very much a traditional sales-led industry where the main focus of sales was an outbound telephone call, and very KPI driven. And the realization of the evolution towards being a more marketing and a brand driven business through thinking about how do you create content, how do you engage with audiences, how do you nurture them, I think is now a philosophy that certainly the majority of recruitment businesses buy into. How much they deliver against that will vary. And then as we start to see companies becoming more data driven, how do recruitment businesses really think about the technology that they buy and the insights that this gives them to produce that that advantage in a pretty saturated marketplace. So I think technology is at the heart of that. And I think we're, as we move to the second half of the chessboard, in terms of how technology is changing, it's not small incremental changes now. If you look at just the rate and the pace of change, it's pretty phenomenal. And I think, we're going to continue to see, through just the sheer volume of recruitment businesses and recruitment-related technologies coming on board, even more disruption.
Yeah, no, I think it's really interesting that when you talk through the evolution of technology, my view of the industry is some of the human aspects are going to become even more important as technology becomes even busier, and the view that we're looking at is of a faster, better, stronger program where it will be faster technology that allows you to find talent better. It'll be better utilisation of, and I've had some really interesting conversations with people who are definitely thinking about how all of the various peripherals can link together to use the tech stack in its best possible form and actually have that as a part of a genuine strategy, which is, recruitment businesses, when it's usually salespeople who start them up in a small function and grow up, it's not a natural sort of plane to look at that sort of thing. And then stronger is stronger relationships, which is a very human part of there to pull that together. So if you can have that strong tech and run with the machines, man and machine working best together, that seems to me where winning looks to settle itself in the recruitment space of the future.
Yeah, I think so. And then it's around, I suppose, the consistent usage of that within a recruitment business. I think there's quite frequently, even if you look at the inconsistent use, around even a CRM system, you'll get a real range of how people will use that. Think about different ways and styles that you can engage on LinkedIn and other social media platforms. So I do agree. I think having the operational rigor to kind of like reinvent what does excellent look like. I think we've got a great opportunity to be able to do that, because if you opened a recruitment company now, what a recruitment company now would take to be successful is very different to what it was 5 years ago. And I think it's quite interesting if you think about the psyche of most recruitment business owners. You grew up in an environment that is no longer relevant, but you were successful. You took that success and started your own business up, and for probably a fair amount of that replicated what you'd learned at that previous company. And then that skill set now is also changing and developing. So actually, I think really understanding the psychology of change management and the behavioural changes that are required for you as a business owner, as an executive, to really embrace a new way of thinking, a new set of technology, is going to be, I think, again, one of the defining characteristics of how a recruitment company and a recruitment business will continue to evolve as we move forward. Because what certainly made a recruitment company successful 5 years is absolutely not going to be the playbook for success in the future.
Yeah, that evolution is important, isn't it? I mean, I think, I think this is my 19th year in the industry of agency recruitment. And if I go all the way back to the very origins of it, the actual job itself is not changed tremendously. The billings are still strong billings, whether you're back in 19 years ago or today. There's similar sort of top billing performances. It's still the same top billing performances. Technology is sped up massively, and if you were to do exactly what you did with nothing else on day one, you'd be left behind naturally. So it's that sort of evolution of picking the same sort of things but keeping some of those core fundamentals behind it that's really interesting to me about how you move further forward and roll with it.
Yeah, I mean, I think relationships are still at the heart of what recruitment is around. I mean, when it comes to AI, automation, and concerns that we have around what's going to be replaced, what won't be replaced, I think anything that is governed by rules, is repeatable, is likely to be replaced, irrelevant of what industry that is. And I think certainly if you look at the high volume of repeatable based tasks that we do in recruitment, those are the areas where how do we improve upon that? How can we let machines do the heavy lifting around there so that we can focus on the softer skills of building relationships with people, because ultimately it's those softer skills, those relationships that really define us from our capabilities versus what a machine can offer.
Well, you guys, if I'm not mistaken, have spoken for a while about the whole concept of art and science in recruitment and putting the two of them, putting the two together. And the art of recruitment for me is a really important part of it. And I think for many years you've been able to sort of almost understate the art because a lot of the robotic processes have been able to happen to allow businesses to succeed, and that's recruitment businesses to succeed. As you're seeing tech effectively disrupt that particular area of it, the art has become even more important.
Absolutely. And
so those people there who, as you talk about, are having those great relationships with their candidates and their clients, those people who are providing added value through content or community or whatever it may be, have been even more pushed to the fore.
Yeah, I think what we're defining is the talent, the era of talent intelligence. I think is essentially what you're talking around. It's how do we take a number of concepts that we have, at a theoretical level, i.e., okay, machines do the heavy lifting, we do the relationship building, and how does that actually translate into day-to-day work? And so on LinkedIn, one of the main ways that we really differentiate ourselves is through the data that we have and the AI and the machine learning that we have in terms of how we produce results. And so for us, the way that translates to the benefit that our customers have is that we have a strong understanding of our members, whether they're customers or clients for you guys, their identity. Okay, we understand their affinity. What are the things that they're doing? What are they interested in? What are some of the patterns that we see? And then what are the insights and their intention? So what's their intention that we can kind of then deliver insights from? So, for example, in a number of our products and tools, you will search for a particular candidate, and we will surface a candidate that we feel is the most relevant for you. And that candidate's not just based on skills. That's based on, okay, you've put in similar candidates to this before. What are the similar groups that they're working in? How engaged are they? How more likely are they to apply? So if you've got a relatively junior recruiter on a new desk that they know nothing about, well, we can help improve the ramp time of that recruiter exponentially. And historically, that may have taken a period of months for that recruiter to start to really understand kind of intuitively what does that ideal candidate look like for your client. And that's what we're trying to streamline that process so that actually we can give the right relevant amount of candidates, because at the end of the day, that candidate experience is going to be far better
Yeah.
if they're dealing with opportunities that are relevant for them. And from a recruiter's and from an end client's perspective, that's ultimately going to, you know, going to make more sense.
There's definitely tech that can help. I mean, I've always been a big Amazon fan, and just that, when you look at how that's helped and the whole intelligence that uses to get things right, it's a very similar sort of thing. You know, look, you've bought this sort of candidate in the past, and people like that have bought X and Y and Z, and around that. That sort of prompt that you can give to recruiters who get busy and have human error within it, and having those sort of tools around it, which is in its very best use, exactly what LinkedIn can do for them, even down to you know, who else companies have searched, every single element of it. If you can start to utilise that sort of stuff, you're a better recruiter because of it. Yeah,
I think so. And I mean, a lot of these things are around, you know, how do you know, what are the, you know, the talking points that you're able to engage. At the end of the day, if you've got a good sense of the persona of your ideal candidate, you know, what interests them, you know, the kind of their professional expertise, what are they,
their problems,
their problems, all of these types of things, you know, you're going to be far more relevant ultimately. And so I think your ability to be able to, it's more than just, you know, a smart job match or a smart skills match. You know, at the end of the day, you know, the best recruiters are those that are able to kind of use data points and create conversations from them. And so how do you kind of, you know, spark that, you know, that relationship through data? That's, you know, that's
the age-old thing that recruitment's a listening game.
Totally, absolutely. So I like the Amazon analogy. So you're a frequent Amazon shopper.
You can keep it, too much.
What was the last thing you bought on Amazon?
The last thing I bought on Amazon would have been my daughter just got a pen license, so we got a pen for her the other day. So I'm going to be bombarded with all various peripherals of that for the next few days. But again, it's stuff there that I don't mind being bombarded about because it's relevant. And to me, that's exactly the same analogy for the recruitment space, isn't it? No one minds being prompted about stuff that's going to be in front of them if it's relevant and if it's going to help them move their business forward. The problem traditionally has been about people spamming the wrong sort of stuff to the wrong sort of people without that intelligence within it. And if we can learn from, you know, the huge success of an Amazon from it, or even, you know, to exactly the same extent, LinkedIn and the growth of LinkedIn, which I think sometimes we underestimate how long it's been. It seems like it's been there forever, LinkedIn, doesn't it? But for the vast majority of my actual billing career, it wasn't even a thing, which seems crazy now to think about where it's so reliant on everything. I just think there's so much that can happen around that, and so much more that can still be done around it as well.
Yeah, I think so. There's you know, we certainly invest, obviously, you know, a significant amount of, you know, our R&D resources into really thinking about what are some of the the best ways that we can engage and continue to engage with our members, give them the very best possible experience, and ensure that, you know, they continue to come back to LinkedIn as a place that really benefits them on, you know, a professional and a personal level. And a big part of that is actually, you know, how do they find, you know, their next job, their next play. And, you know, the recruitment industry is really one of the most efficient channels that we've got to be able to do that at massive scale. And so, from our point of view, you guys are one of the most valuable partners that we have in fulfilling our mission to connect the world's professionals, to make them more productive, to make them more successful, and to really ensure, you know, that we're creating economic opportunity for all of our members and the members of the global workforce.
Yeah, I think it's really interesting how LinkedIn sort of morphed over time to be exactly that. It's like the perfect sort of Venn diagram. Was it going to disrupt the industry, or was it actually going to sort of move in, you know, and challenge it, or was it going to be moved in to be a tool that sort of really locks everything together? And I think the industry's been a lot better for it, and it's certainly helped everyone achieve the same sort of goal off the back of it, isn't it?
Yeah, I think so. I think sometimes technology can help and sometimes technology can hinder. So if you think pre-LinkedIn, when, you know, there was, you know, a huge utilisation of really the job board market, and that's a market that I come from, so I know it relatively well. You know, the nature of the saturation of candidates actually encourages, you know, bad behaviour of, like, you know, like the fastest finger. You know, you've got to get a candidate in front of someone else before someone else. So, you know, that in itself seems to defeat the object of going through a thorough amount of due diligence to really understand that candidate or understand the client. And so effectively, you know, all that you were encouraged you know, the kind of like mass kind of market
spreading
approach of sending out a ton of candidates to a ton of roles, you know, in a fairly light touch fashion. And I think with, you know, the advent of, you know, the financial crisis, with I think the advent of, you know, direct sourcing companies, direct sourcing, you know, teams within corporate companies, and, you know, the rise in the RPO market, you know, that's meant that, you know, the low hanging fruit of recruitment is no longer there. So that approach is now redundant,
and so it's made it a craft, as you say. It's a professional service as opposed to a service, I think, and it's for the better. And I could talk about this for ages, and I know that both you and I are passionate recruitment industry folk. So I'm going to resist the temptation to talk about this for the next 15 hours for you, but I am going to ask you one last question.
Okay.
And that last question is something I ask to everyone at this sort of stage, to say, look, there's a whole bunch of recruiters who are out there watching this and hanging on your every word at the moment. So if you were to see a recruiter out there in the marketplace and give them one bit of advice, what would that bit of advice be? Yeah,
I think authentic engagement with candidates is one of the things that will make you stand out. And, you know, I look at this like fairly philosophically. You know, I think if you think back of the time when, you know, you were offered a role, or when you started work at a company, or when you started your own, you know, company up, think about the level of, you know, energy, you know, and happiness that kind of like comes into your life and your family's life around that, and, you know, the benefit of actually putting someone into their dream job, what that actually means. And so, you know, from my point of view, kind of, if you know, I find that those people that love recruitment and are highly successful at recruitment have that very much, you know, in the heart of what they, you know, what they're trying to achieve. So, you know, thinking of lives changed versus numbers on a board, I think is a really healthy way to kind of give you purpose, to give you focus, demand excellence of yourself, and to really ensure that you're doing everything that you can to, you know, to give something back and make a difference. Do
you know what? I love that, and I think it's you know, it takes me all the way back to when I first got into recruitment, and you know, when you were interviewing people, it was like, right, okay, it was a very different sort of world back then. This was you know, it was just after the or during the you know, the whole millennium sort of phase, and back there it was all about bang bang bang, let's get the deal done, and there was very little talk of that, and it was almost be a ridicule you know, thing in an interview to talk to someone who was there looking to make a difference. And you look at how things have evolved, and I think it's got to be, you're absolutely right, it's got to be at the heart of what you're doing to say, look, you can actually make a significant change. This is one of the key decisions of anyone, you know, on both sides of it. A client hiring, it's a significant investment. It stalls or accelerates careers. On a candidate side, making the wrong decision stalls or accelerates careers significantly from it. So it's life-changing decisions that you're taking people on the journey with, and have that sort of catalyst to do it. So it's a good thing.
And look, people will always work better for a cause than a company. You know, and the notion of purpose-driven organisations are, you know, proven, you know, to be even more successful. And I think, you know, for you as a recruiter to be able to maintain your integrity, to know what you're going to say yes to, but more importantly, know what you're going to say no to. And at the end of the day, you know, one of the most challenging commodities to trade in, you know, is people. But at the end of the day, if you're looking for repeat business, you know, you're always going to go back to people who you know, that you trust, you respect, and who made a difference for you. And so I think, you know, being in recruitment is, you know, there's never been a better time to be in recruitment. I think the technology and the pace of change within the industry, and the backdrop of what we're seeing as a result of the fourth industrial revolution and the exponential disruption of every single business is, there's never been a more exciting time to be around. But I think, you know, embrace that, make a difference, contribute, you know, and you know, conduct yourself with integrity, and I think, you know, there's only going to be good things ahead of you.
Everything's going to be just fine after that. Dan, it's been an absolute pleasure. Thanks so much for sharing all of that with us.
No worries.
Thanks to everyone for watching. We hope you've enjoyed the show, and we'll see you on another episode of Recruiter 360 TV very soon. Dan, thanks a lot.
Cheers, Toby.
Cheers.